right, it's Sleiman and Sal podcast. It's episode 8, and we talk about I thought that says round 2, but round 11 NRL review. Sleiman, how you going?
Not too bad. It's been a busy week. How about yourself?
Very busy week, very busy week. And we've got a special guest, Sleiman. The special guest is from the Daily Telegraph, and I'm going to say her name correctly this time. Fatima Kdouh. I hope I got the last name right. How you going?
You get a pass mark there. You only got half of that right.
I'll take it and run. I'll take it and run. Welcome to Sleiman and Sal.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, Sleiman. We've got a big episode to talk about and a big schedule and an agenda.
Yeah, we've got various topics that we'll go through, from SBW being rumoured to coming back to the NRL to Paul Green leaving the Cowboys. But Sal, I think we can't start this podcast without doing. I'm going to butcher the name. I'm going to say Fats. I'm bailing.
Yeah, I was saying before the podcast that most of my friends call me Fats, so I'll roll with that.
Cool. Sal, you need to do the intro, the bio properly, because I think what the interesting part about this, which we don't write on the screen, is that Fats, you're an accountant.
I was a chartered accountant as
wow.
well.
Well, you've got two on this podcast right here, and when I hear the letter CA, it's
I know my mum still got the CA certificate hanging up on her wall, so I'm glad she did actually, because it was a hard yakka to get that certificate.
No, absolutely right. But I've got a question for you, Fats.
Yeah.
Did you fail the last subject 5 times?
Oh no, you can't bring that up on a podcast, Sal.
Did I fail the last subject 5 times?
So it would have been. It may have been capstone for you, or EBA, which was like ethics, business, and something else. Actually, I've got the folder up here. And
it's the last module, the one that's the summary of all 5. Sleiman and I are working together, and the poor bastard had a tough ride at the end.
I actually did a bit of spring cleaning recently and found my transcript. I actually only failed 7 times, not 8. And 2 of them were funded by our boss, my former boss. And
I was just going to say, how did you get away with failing it that many times? We only got one shot, my old employer. If we didn't get it the first time, we had to pay for it ourselves.
You can blame the Maya case study. That's all Sleiman's going to be putting a blame on, is Maya.
we divert a little bit, but I've got to say, like, Sal, because everyone's going to think that, okay. So in the midst of the Queensland floods, the Brisbane floods, and the New Zealand earthquakes, that's when I was doing the last subject, and I was working a lot. I'm not going to lie. There was 2 exams where we went to America for a week, and then I flew in the day before, hoping that I would study before the exam. But as Sal witnessed at the airport in Chicago, I was just sleeping and snoring from being so hungover.
Aren't they all open book exams?
Yeah, but you still need to know where to look.
Exactly. And it was tough times for Sleiman, but anyway, he got there in the end.
That's the main point.
When they changed it to capstone, which is basic, I don't know why they changed it to capstone. I actually passed the first capstone subject. So, and it was coincidentally when we stopped traveling for work a lot. So, yeah. Anyway, we digress to other important stuff. So you went from being a banker, was it Commonwealth Bank?
No, at Macquarie, actually. So I started off as a chartered accountant with Deloitte. And then I moved into banking and worked for Macquarie Bank before I sort of pulled the pin on that and decided to become a journalist. So considering the state of the media industry at the moment, that was clearly a very smart move. I'm being sarcastic, by the way.
Hey, the accountants aren't safe. No one's safe in the climate that we're in right now.
That's true. Well, I was in banking during the global financial crisis, so that was a pretty tough time too. Though I do remember Macquarie Bank might have been one of the very few investment banks in the world that recorded the profit that year, so that was something. They're very resilient at Macquarie. Yeah,
I know a few people that work there. Yeah.
So what do you rate? Do you rate accounting or journalism?
You asked that question like you already know the answer. Now, look, I can't complain. Like, I seriously have the best job in the world. It isn't as glamorous as people think as it is, but I can't complain. Like, someone pays me money to write and talk and watch rugby league. Like, that's got to be literally one of the best jobs in Australia.
No, definitely. I mean, it's and it's good to have rugby league back on. So you would have been very, very happy when that happened. Mr. Volandi's got it done.
So what's...
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
No, I was just going to say, I was going to touch base on, so you're a Canberra follower. What made you, what was the highlight for you to follow Canberra Raiders?
Again, as I said before the podcast, probably showing my age a little bit there, but when I was sort of first started watching rugby league in the late 80s, early 90s, the Raiders were pretty much, you know, the powerhouse of the competition. Right. They were winning everything. And I have kind of some of my first memories of actually, like, you know, watching grand finals and the rest of it. And that's just sort of stuck with them. Having said that, goes to show my loyalty, because it took a very long time before we got anywhere near a grand final again. So, and being at last year's grand final was amazing, like an incredible experience just to be able to work it, but also to be there as a fan was just awesome.
So how do you rate Canberra's chances now with Josh Hodgson going down with the injury? Because they were favourites before it started.
They've had a really mixed season so far. Like, if you remember back to the preseason, right? Remember they had to relocate to the Sunshine Coast because Canberra had all that smoke haze because we had the really bad bushfires. So their season's sort of been interrupted anyway, and they had a short season because they went so far into the finals. So I always wondered whether they could actually back it up this year. And then they had a run of injuries. Now Josh Hodgson's gone. Bateman's supposed to be coming back this week, though Hodgson is the key cog in that side. And I worry that even with, you know, someone like Jack Wyden and George Williams finding some form, and Bateman coming back, that they still don't have the game manager they need to get them deep into the finals.
But do you think this allows the opportunity for George Williams and Jack Wyden to take more control of the team? Because it was, when I say was, like, Josh Hodgson is coming back next year, we hope, but it was, when you think of their attack, you think that it goes for Josh Hodgson. I think, isn't this the time for them to shine and take control? Especially Wyden, he's a senior player. Yeah.
If we're talking about game management, it's probably a responsibility that I prefer George Williams to take over, and that sort of Jack Wyden just worry about his running game, you know, his passing game, his playmaking, because he is slowly improving there. He was incredible in the grand final, and he's just sort of picked that form up this year. So I don't think, considering the stage he is at in his, you know, career as a half, you don't want to overburden him with too much responsibility. So no, I prefer him to stick to creating, to the playmaking, and for George Williams to do a bit more of that game management. But you're absolutely right. Whether it's George Williams or whether it's Jack Wyden who becomes the dominant playmaker in that side, it would be good to see one of the halves take that role, because it's a very unique situation where the dominant playmaker happens to be a hooker. It doesn't necessarily happen all the time. Usually it's either the halfback or the half or the 5'8".
I've been quite impressed with George Williams. He's at that, you know, really orthodox halfback. He's great to watch, and I get sincerely jealous of it because I'm a Dogs fan and we haven't had a decent 7. I mean, no disrespect to Foreign, but he's obviously, unfortunately, made out of glass right now. But
that's a bit harsh.
in terms of, you know exactly what I mean.
Yeah, I know. He's injury prone. Unfortunately,
he's injury prone.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of him, really. But to see that sort of styled halfback, like you said, you don't really get them around. And but they've done really well. And like you said, exciting times for them. And their recruiting has been sensational.
Yeah, just the English imports. Yeah. So we'll go to the first topic, and it's a question marks SBW to the Roosters. So the Toronto Wolfpack have backed out of the English Super League, and then it sparked talks last night of Sonny Bill possibly returning to the NRL, and the Roosters believe they have enough money to fit him under the cap. So let's just assume that Sonny. Well, first of all, would Sonny Bill Williams be a good fit, considering that Victor Radley is out for the year? So I'll let you take this one off.
So Sonny Bill Williams is how old now? Is he 30?
35.
35. Yeah. My only problem with Sonny Bill, and I spoke. Yeah. So I have a good friend who's a big Roosters fan. His issue with this is the game has changed. It's obviously more quicker than it was. When he left before, when he went away to rugby, when he was playing for Roosters in the last period of time, he was quite slow. Now he'll come back. Will he fit? I mean, he probably not an 80-minute player, but to have him around and the culture of the team is vastly important. And I think he also made a comment to me. I don't know if it was you, Sleiman, or someone else, that if he comes as an assistant coach and hovers around, you can imagine with Cronk, then sure, why
did
not?
Make a comment like that.
No,
That's
it must have been my mate then. If he hovers around the team, then it's not a bad thing. So why not? He'd be amazing around any team when it comes down to fitness and just attitude. Fats, what are your thoughts?
I don't necessarily think, you said, he's sort of a little slower now in his old age or as he's getting older, but I don't think he's ever been, the quickest player or, what you get from him is impact, and he's an impact player. And that's exactly what he had when he joined the Roosters. I actually spoke to Boyd Cordner earlier today, just about Sonny Bill, and they would love to have him back. And interestingly, they did mention his age. He mentioned his age, but he almost spoke about him like he was a Benjamin Button type guy, that he just gets better with age, and he looks after his body so well, and he's really well conditioned. And the game's changed. It's really quick, particularly this year. But they have zero concerns about whether or not he'll be able to slot into that side and, play a game next week if he had to, because apparently he's the ultimate professional. And like you said, he's the kind of guy, because he is so experienced, achieve a lot. Just to have him around the club would be a massive boost.
So then I bring to you
Are
guys.
you two Bulldog supporters? Are you two Bulldog supporters?
I am unfortunately a Bulldog supporter.
Unfortunately.
Well, it's been a rough couple of years, Sal.
It has. Yes, we're big Bulldog supporters, and we've.
Would you take him back?
I don't think he'll. Even if he said yes, I want to come. Sorry, even if we offered him the kitchen sink, I don't think he'd come back. We're coming last. He's got.
Yeah, I think that's where my thoughts are. We're coming last, so why would he?
It's not like we're gonna get more tickets with him coming to our team, because we can't even fill up a stadium now because of the COVID issue. So it doesn't make sense in dollars. Like I wouldn't want us.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, but it would be like a nice redemption story, I think, on the part, because it's funny you guys say that, because I've spoken to, obviously being Lebanese, and know a lot of Bulldog supporters, that I've spoken to a couple who are still filthy at him. Like, even after all this time, they're like, no, we don't want him back. Like, they're still filthy. So for him, I think he probably in the middle of the night type thing, but I think for him, he probably still harbors a bit of, I don't know, like regret as to how it all unfolded, especially if he reflects back on it, as a 35-year-old grown man.
To be honest, so say it was the start of next season, he doesn't go back to the Super League, and there was a spot for the Bulldogs, and we were looking promising. I'd take him back in a heartbeat. He's a world-class player. Like I understand the fans' issue with him walking out on the club, especially because that year was a terrible year. I think we ended up getting the wooden spoon after that. But
yeah. You can imagine if Twitter was around back then.
he was getting underpaid, and it was no different to the Solomon Homono.
Oh my god!
It was no different to the Solomon Homono stuff in the 90s, and Homono at the time was the star player, and he did the same thing with the Dogs, but like we didn't make a big deal about it. Like I don't believe you should hold grudges. I think if he wants to come back, we'll take him.
Yeah, I've moved on from it, and like you said, Sleiman, if he does want to hover around for next year, I mean, it'd be good for membership numbers and good for the game, maybe. But interested to see if he does join the Roosters.
My concern with the Roosters, if he was to join them, so you got Cordner on the left, you got Crichton on the right, who actually likes to play on the left, but I think it seems. I don't see Sonny Bill replacing the value that Victor Radley had, where he did all the dirty work in the middle, doing tackles, and plus had that ball playing ability in the middle. I see Sonny Bill as a wide running back rower. So
yeah, the way the game's changed now, there's no way who could play in the middle.
So that's the thing. So is he really a good fit for the Roosters? Because I think the team that would probably benefit with him, even though I don't think that they're a chance for the top 4, but definitely top 8, is the South Sydney Rabbitohs. We're just talking about it offline before, how they've lost Sam Burgess. He'd be a perfect replacement for them on the fringes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess if he did come, Angus Crichton could probably move into the middle.
Yeah, I could see Angus Crichton moving to the middle.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, he can come off the bench, like you said, as an impact player.
Yeah. There was a storyline too that he could possibly be enticed to go to the Warriors. And I think the way that this season has unfolded with COVID and the rest of it, that would be a nice sort of, storyline for the rest of the season. But I don't know, like if I'm him to have coming back to have one last hurrah, I'd either go to the Bulldogs just to sort of, as a bit of a redemption story, or I'd just go to the Roosters, because you go there and you're guaranteed success, and that's why players go there, and that's why players go there on such little money.
Yeah, that you're spot on with that. With it's like with the NBA, where you have the star teams like now in this season with the Lakers and the Clippers, and people signing on very little money because they just want to have that championship opportunity. It's the same thing. So I absolutely agree. If you're trying to win an NRL premiership, the Roosters, the Storm, and maybe the Panthers and the Eels are the best opportunity, and you probably go back to a club that you've won a championship with previously.
Yeah, it'll be good for the game. So overall, so they'll be pushing that in the behind the scenes, I'm pretty sure.
All right, so we'll leave that one there, and we'll talk about the next topic, which is Paul Green leaving the Cowboys. So he actually quit, and he's made mention that he's taking the rest of the season off to reflect. He's rumored to the Sharks, and I think there's been some rumors to the Broncos. Who do you think needs him more, the Sharks or the Broncos? Because they're really the only opportunities available, unless you think that the Dragons are going to let go of McGregor.
Would he go to the Warriors, Sleiman? Is my question.
Sorry, I didn't think of that.
Well, today Sean Johnson said no. I think they're a big fan of Mr. Morris.
But is he saying that to show support for his coach?
Here we go. We got some insight. We got some insight.
No, because I was the person who asked him that question, and I said to him,
there you go.
I said to him, what do you make of the chat that, Paul Green is being considered? And remember, Paul Green, I think, played 90-something games for the Sharks. That's where he started his season, his playing career. And I actually said to him, is there any merit in it? And he literally gave me a one-word answer. And this is a guy, Sean Johnson is a guy who's quite articulate and usually gives you a lot of time in answering your questions. And he said no and went silent. And then I asked him again. I said, no. And he's like, no. And he refused to even entertain. Entertain.
I saw that at 9 News. I'm like, that poor journalist that asked the question. There you go.
That poor journalist.
There you go.
But no, I mean, and then I pushed him about some other things. There was talk a couple of weeks ago about Eddie Jones, about some powerful factions at the club who were sort of pushing for somebody else to come in because they didn't think Morris could win a premiership. But I don't know. I'm not sure you sign a rookie coach like John Morris in the hope that he's going to deliver a premiership in 3 seasons. So,
but see, I've got a question for you, and just a side question about your role. Do you ever get the real deal answer once the cameras are switched off and they say, look, I can't say nothing? Do you sometimes get a bit of a hunch after the cameras are switched off?
Oh, obviously you have off the record chats, which is what we call them. And sometimes, they're the chats that give you a bit of insight. But I mean, I also spoke to Brayley and Aaron Woods, and they all pretty much said the same thing, that he's got the full support, and they all seem to like him as a coach. So nobody really said anything that would indicate that the players are unhappy with being there.
He seems like he's one of the boys, and that's what I think Aaron Wood said. He's one of the boys. He's a younger coach, and you can imagine if they get rid of him, replace him with Paul Green. Paul Green walks in, you'll just ruin the cohesion within the team. Can I just add a comment?
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I was just going to say, it's funny you say that he was one of the boys. Like, if you think back to Barrett's time at Manly, one of his criticisms was that he wasn't a very good man manager. He only had relationships with particular players, and the fact that he was one of the boys, he was just sort of too close to them in age, and he didn't have too much experience. So instead of being that hard-ass, coach mentor that you need to win premierships, he was too friendly with them. So that isn't necessarily a good thing to be one of the boys as a coach.
I was about to say, like, when was the last time that a player's coach has won a premiership for the team? And I can't.
The one that I know, but he's not a club coach, is Brad Fittler. Everybody who I've spoken to about Brad Fittler says he's a player's coach. He's the kind of guy that you want to play for. But, he does his thing sort of at representative level, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, and that's...
Yeah, I can't even think of one.
Because you got to think of it, like Barrett got pulled the pin. I think I heard that Matt Elliott was a player's type of coach as well. He got pulled the pin.
Wayne Bennett is too. Apparently Wayne Bennett is really good at sort of, massaging the relationships that he has with his players to get the best of them.
Speak of Wayne Bennett, have you ever come across a really awkward question interview with Wayne Bennett, given how he sometimes is during press conferences?
I can't. Nothing really sticks out. I've been there when he has sort of, decided that he wants to have a bit of fun with journos, but I've never actually been the target of anything. I always try and make sure that all my questions are well researched and thought out before I ask them to him.
Right.
I don't want to be shot down by Wayne Bennett.
No, fair enough. But just with Paul Green quickly, I really like the fact that, and I'm hoping this is true. Well, I'm guessing it is. That when he left, it was on good terms, and it was just an agreement where both parties sat down and said, "I'm out," or "I'm gone," rather than this what happened to Dean Pay, for example, or what you usually get with your normal coaches. It looked like he left on good terms, and his time was up. He won a premiership, and the CEO came out and had some really good things to say about him. I mean, our CEO was nowhere to be seen, aside from the media statement. So, but I know there was a lot of backlash in terms of getting rid of Pay. But, So I like that. And so hopefully he gets somewhere.
Yeah, just on that, before he actually got sacked, there was a bit of chat that he'd lost, the playing group, that he'd lost the dressing room, particularly with senior players at the club. But after he was sacked, it was then revealed that he was told the Wednesday before that he was no longer at the club. And nobody found out. It took a whole 3 or 4 days before Buzz broke the story. We were sitting down about to record Monday Bunker, which is a show that we do. Buzz's phone rings, and he's like, "Shit, guys, Paul Green telling his players right now that, he's left the club." So that probably shows just the fact that he probably actually had good relationships within that club, because nobody leaked that information, even though he'd been out there for at least 3 or 4 days. You take Canterbury for as the opposite example, they leak like a sieve. But there isn't any sort of recruitment meeting, board meeting, any player meeting, any sort of meeting that happens at the club that doesn't end up in the newspaper. And that says a lot about what's going on there at the moment.
Yeah, and so when that happens, is it an adrenaline rush where all you journalists are like, "Oh, okay, here we go. We need to jump on the media. We need to start writing up the articles." Is it what's the adrenaline like when you've got to stop what you're doing? It's a bit like work anyway, like being an accountant. But then again, you're up and
when you reconcile to the set, yes.
Do you got to work at like this time and start writing the article, get it peer reviewed, and then it needs to go out ASAP? What's it like, especially now with the demand that you've got competitors out there, the Sydney Morning Herald and what have you, all over social media on Twitter and about to release? What's it like?
Well, like you said, you described it. It's an adrenaline rush. There's nothing like it really, and it's that rush that sort of keeps you going. It's like a drug, you experience it once and then, you spend the rest of your days trying to experience it again. It's like being an addict, really. So, that's exactly what it is. You want to be first, you want to be right too. You don't want, to be made a fool of, especially like you said with social media. So, but yeah, it's an incredible feeling, and that's why journos do it, and that's why they keep doing it, even though the job can be quite brutal.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Well, to sum up the Paul Green situation, choose a team: Sharks, Broncos, Warriors, or the Dragons.
I think he's going to hold back and wait for Seabold to go, and I think it'll be Brisbane.
Brisbane, okay. Fats?
Yeah, look, I think it'll be Brisbane, but I can see how he'd be a good fit for a club like the Sharks. But I reckon he would probably prefer to stay in Queensland.
Well, there you have it. We'll move to the next topic. I actually have no idea where I
UK
don't know
maybe.
Yeah, I think
Paul Green doesn't have it. No one has to be.
So just quickly to touch on this, because we spent 2 podcasts on it. We've vented, we've let out all the steam. There's no more steam left. So the Bulldogs actually do sign Barrett, and we've also signed Nick Kotrick, who I think we rated as one of our top 5 signings of the current available free agents. Sal, are you pleased with the signing of Barrett?
There aren't that many, by the way.
Pardon, what was that?
There aren't that many quality free agents.
Yeah, we were
looking through the list.
It's looking like 2021 is the year.
It's 2021, yeah.
And it makes sense when the Bulldogs. So sorry, Sal. The Bulldogs did a lot of 1-year contracts to have a lot of players end at 2020. So after the end of next season, and it looks like there's because if you look, I think they did that to Lewis, Remus Smith, a couple other players. There's a lot of players coming off contract in 2021.
Well, hopefully you can hold some of that salary cap.
Well, they're going to have to. If they're smart, they hold it, because there's like outside of Kotrick and say David Fafita, who's either going to stay at the Broncos or going to the Titans. There's very little quality there. I don't know if they go after someone like Harry Grant, who I know technically still has a contract with the Melbourne Storm, but anything can happen if Cameron Smith decides to play. It's not a foregone conclusion that Harry Grant has to stay at the Tigers, if Cameron Smith plays on. It's just that he's got a clause, where there's an option for him to stay at the Tigers. So, like, they have a lot of money, but
is that in the players' favour?
And they're probably.
Sorry, is that in the players' favour? The clause. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, look, there's. You would assume so. To be honest, both Melbourne and the Tigers have been very quiet about exactly how the clause works, but that's the assumption that it's in the players' favour.
Okay. Sorry to cut you off, Gif. I know you're
struggling there, Sleiman.
Well, because I think my biggest concern is that, say we've got 4 in right now. So the thing that I hear a lot in American sports talk shows, and I absolutely agree. The best ability is availability, and we have Kieran Foran. That's just he limped off the field last week's game. We're looking at signing Jack Bird, that unfortunately he's had a couple of knee reconstructions the last couple of years. I'd rather a player that's got lesser charisma around them that will stay on the field, rather than a player that could be at a high level but is injury, because we need more stability, I think.
Just like Jamie said last week, Sleiman, you've got Burden, you've got Lachlan Lamb, you've got Starling. I thought, and I think Fats won't like this, but I thought he was really good at 9 when he came on. So there's a few options out there.
There are. Jack Bird is so far removed from, the player who, won a premiership at the Sharks. It's not funny. And if Canterbury are seriously considering signing him, considering how injury prone he is, knowing what happened with Kieran Foran, then that recruitment, team at Belmore has no idea. And that's no disrespect to Jack Bird, but he's not what they need at the moment. he's just not what they need. It's that simple. They need a half. They need like a damaging edge back rower maybe, or a damaging forward, because that's where they're sort of lacking, the Dogs. They're lacking a bit of punch. But they should in no way, shape or form be out there splashing money that on an outside back, unless they can get him for cheap. But,
so
I don't know if it'd be worth it.
If the Bulldogs were given the opportunity, and this is a finance thing, because obviously I love finances, if the Bulldogs were given the opportunity to re-sign Foran, say, for $400K a season, would you do it as the Bulldogs?
If he can stay injury-free, then yeah. You could probably get him for less. Let's face it, he's probably not even worth that. Like, you think about the output he's provided during the time where he's been earning up towards $1 million a year. He's not worth $400K even. So, and I think Kieran Foran, he himself admitted that. So he's willing to take a substantial pay cut to stay there, but he's going to have to stay there because he hasn't really earned, I don't even think he's earned $400K, to be honest. So if you can stay fit, then yeah, for somebody of his experience, he is worth it, but he's got to stay fit.
If I was Foran, I would look for a 1-year contract potentially, and hopefully next year he could kill it. Maybe.
Yeah, well, nobody would give him more than 1 year, knowing how injury prone he is. And again, any club who gives him more than 1 year is a stupid club
or a desperate club. So
exactly,
yeah, or
and
a
we are
desperate
desperate.
club, but I was going to say, do they get any more desperate than the Bulldogs? So I don't know.
I think we're clinching at straws with the Bulldogs because, and I've heard lots of raps about Will Hopewadi's brother in Manly, and there's rumours that we're signing him up, but I don't think he's turned 18 yet. He's had 2 knee reconstructions 2 years in a row. I'm not writing him off, but geez, having that at such a young age and having friends that have had that at such a young age, it's very hard to bounce back from that.
Yeah, it is. I spoke to Des Hasler about him last week actually, and because he's back to full training now, Albert Hopewadi you're talking about, and eligible to play NRL now, but without reserve grade. Hasler isn't willing to risk him. So, and you have to remember when he did his second ACL, he did it in his second game back. So he recovered from an ACL, played 2 SG ball games, and then he did his ACL again. That would suggest he's somebody who's injury prone. So, he's another one where if you do bring him in, it is a risk. He's got a lot of reps on him, but he is a risk.
Yeah. Well, we'll stay tuned and to wait to see what other players are rumoured to go to the Bulldogs. We'll finish off one of the last.
Just quickly on the Bulldogs. There was a report just before we started the podcast that said Corey Harawira was going to the Raiders. So it looks like that's whatever's happened there.
I didn't want to announce it.
Able to mend that relationship. Why?
I didn't want to announce it just in case it was just Twitter talk, but I guess coming from yourself, it's sort of. Talk. Well, you know how.
Yeah.
There's like
rumors he's got those 2 guys in. I don't know what the players they are. But that he's quite close with, it seems, and it seems it's like what disappointed me, and I won't go on and on about it, is I don't think the club maintained a relationship with Corey, and he's just said, look, there's guys in Canberra that I could potentially live with and go, and I've got mates down there, so I'm out. And it makes sense to me. I didn't expect him to stay.
Yeah, sorry guys, just lost you there for a second.
That's all right. The phone for
in shock of the sign.
in shock of my comments.
In shock, yeah, because you said something really interesting, which I really disagree with, that the club didn't maintain a relationship with him. He was a grown man who got fired. When grown men get fired, their employers don't maintain relationships with them. So, and in a way, I reckon good on the Bulldogs and good on the NRL for taking the stand they did, because, at the end of the day, you have to stand for something. And just because what they did wasn't illegal, it doesn't mean that the club and the NRL shouldn't take a moral stand on what happened there. We won't get into that. But, yeah, I just think, him complaining about, they weren't nice to me when I did the wrong thing. Well,
Yeah.
guess what?
No, there
you know,
is.
you're
Yeah,
gonna do
there's
the wrong
merit to
thing and
that.
get fired from your job. You know, grow up.
Yeah.
You know, you did
Yeah,
the
there's
wrong
merit to
thing.
that.
Consequences.
No,
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. We touched base on it last week. We won't go into too much, but yeah, for a club that's trying to rebuild its image, especially from the early 2000s, and having
Yeah.
and the fans can complain as much as a lot of the fans complain that the Bulldogs are, you know, absolutely smashed in the media about their misbehaviors and all that stuff. At the end of the day, you've done something wrong. The only reason why they're reporting on it is because the club's doing
Yeah.
something wrong. Just don't do anything wrong. Be angels. Be saints. If these other clubs aren't getting caught, they're smart. Who cares? But they've done something wrong. So don't
Yeah.
try to rubbish away from the fact that the media's been like targeting the Bulldogs or anything. The players should be they're professionals. They're adults.
Mm. Yeah.
Exactly right.
They are.
Put your phone away. I mean, if I was out going hard, I would put the phone away. It's my career at stake here. But anyway, interesting news, and we wish.
But
And
learn.
so interesting to see how Trent Barrett does go for next year. I mean, I'm actually quite excited about it.
Well, we'll leave this last one, and we won't touch too much on it because I'm worried. I'm going to butcher this guy's name. I'm not good with names. Everyone knows that. Joseph Sulali, I think it is. He had signed a $500,000 deal with the Rabbitohs per year. Now he's back. Well, they're saying that he's back because nothing's official yet. But Rugby Union's offering $3 million over 3 years. So basically, when he turns 18, he'll get like I think it's $900K over 3 years. So he gets a $300K advance payment now before he turns 18. Russell Crowe has come out and said that he's going to have a talk. Do you think that's going to happen?
I think he'll try. I mean, it's good for the image of Souths in terms of signing a kid such as this. I mean, I've seen a couple of his videos. He looks quite good.
But Sal, these videos are against other teenagers. This is he's going to.
He's got that English look, right? The push and the shove and the dance and the prance. He's got a bit of that. So I just good on him. He must have a very good player manager, and whoever that may be. But we'll just see how he goes. I mean, Rugby are after him for a reason.
I agree. He looks like a promising prospect and everything like that. But as soon as I don't think any NRL team should pay him more than $1 million, even though he's that promising of a player and all that type of thing, because you're setting a dangerous precedent for other players that are coming up in the grades. That's the expectation. You're increasing the benchmark so significantly. I can't think of the last time an 18 or 19-year-old player got paid more than $500,000 a year.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said. It does take. Yeah, I know it's hard. He hasn't proved himself, and they're throwing money at him. You can imagine the culture, and I know I use this word quite loosely, but the culture is he'll come in and players are just, I don't know, look down on him. I mean, we'll just have to see how he goes. All right, we lost Fats, but she's back, and you could tell that we lost her for a minute.
Sorry, guys, my phone died when I said before that I was having a hectic day. I wasn't joking. So give me 10 seconds to just set this up, and I'll be back.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the master of Supercoach on the podcast. So there's no absolute reason why we can't talk about Supercoach fantasy. So
wait a minute, Sleiman, are you talking about me?
I was just saying, who's the master of Supercoach?
Fats, you don't be so humble. We read.
Actually, you know what? I'm not going to be humble tonight because I think my rank so far this season is the highest it's ever been. So I'm going to gloat about that. I'm just going to go to the homepage to see exactly where I'm at, but I'm pretty sure where am I?
So what's the highest you've ever finished in a
I'm
season?
In a season, like in the top 5,000, which I know isn't great. But
5,000 out of 60
right now
and
I'm
80,000.
2,000. So right now I'm sitting at 2,555 out of 136,000. So that's not too bad.
You're almost in the top 2%. So
There you go.
I'd take that any day of the week. I am struggling to crack more than 1,000 points a week.
Okay. It's been a tough season.
Well,
It's been an interesting one. There's players that just skyrocket. You know what? The wingers, the ones that are scoring more than 2 tries a game, just blows out your points, which is great. But we just got to have that player. It's happening a lot. I mean, the game's changed. It's quicker and there's more points.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. For me, I've found picking the wrong captain has really hurt me. Like it's come down to that sort of captaincy choice.
are you a safe captain choice person or like a little bit of risk?
I'm normally quite safe.
So
but
the Payne Haas, the Tomalolo type of players?
yeah, so for most of the start of the season, I was just sort of whacking the sea on Payne Haas and hoping for the best because he was pretty much scoring like at a point a minute. So, at the very least, he had huge base stats in him. And if he came up with that attacking stat, then, even better. But lately I've just sort of kind of got it glued on James Tedesco because you just feel like at any moment he can just, come out with a massive score. So there's that fear now every time I decide who I'm going to put my C on, that if I don't put it on James Tedesco, then I'm going to miss out.
So there's a very hot debate in our fantasy comp, me and Sal's fantasy comp, where the vice captain trick. A, do you believe that it's fair game? And B, if you do believe it's fair game, how often have you used it?
Firstly, I believe in winning. So absolutely, it's fair game.
Sal, are you listening right now? Sal,
I am so against it, and I actually have refused to do it and you know who else? Sleiman has done it to me. We've got a fantasy comp since 2014, and we've done big Excel spreadsheets. It's very serious comp. We've got a WhatsApp group.
It's a draft comp. We have
we're hoping to make it to the Daily Telegraph one day, and I'm so against it. I'm the commissioner, as you know. Each league has a commissioner, and I've tried to ban it. The boys have completely thrown me off and said no, it's not going to happen. I'm not a big fan of it. I just feel it's. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's probably because I've been beaten so many times. Someone using the
captain trick on you.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Look, it takes a lot of it does take a lot of roster management to really nail it. Because it's not just about swinging it around so you can get your vice captain's points. Like you want to make sure the players that your non-playing reserves that you only have a couple, and the ones that you do have are still scoring decent, amounts of points. So it takes a lot of strategizing to get it right. So I'm all for it, but I don't necessarily use it all the time. I think I've maybe only used it once or twice ever.
Really? Only once or twice?
So how many times have you done it? Twice a year?
Oh, mate. Well, in our comp, at least 3 or 4 times. In the other supercoach. So I strategize where I look at the games being played, and this is probably why I've been so terrible this year, because I'll put the vice captain on a risky play. So say, for example, my go-to is I've got Luke Keary in my team, and I'll put him, if he's playing on a Thursday or Friday night, which he has been lately, I'll put him as the vice captain and in hopes that he'll come in. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And that's probably where the killer is, because if a Payne Haas or Tomalolo has played before Luke Keary, it's like, oh crap, who am I going to put it on? And then you put it on a forward, and you miss out. So, and like you said, with the draft comp especially, so because it's not everyone can pick the same player. You actually, we're seeing it this week. So our mate dropped Jordan McLean and did the vice captain trick on me after Sean Johnson absolutely blitzed it. But he's lost Jordan McLean, who's a solid 40, 50 point front rower, and someone else has picked him up on the waivers. So if you don't have that injury on your bench and you don't have that substitute, like, you have to think of the risk and the reward.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's what it is. It's weighing up that risk and reward. And even though I'm all for it, sometimes it's a bit too risky for my liking.
Yeah, and especially if the lower scoring player on your bench is getting you 8 or 10 or 12 points,
Yeah,
and that comes in.
exactly.
You're really hoping that the vice captain player that you have is someone that's gotten 100 plus, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Your vice captain has to have a really high ceiling. Otherwise,
Yep.
it's just not worth it.
Well, we'll continue on the super. I'm still sharing the screen because we get off topic a little bit. I love it. The top 5. These are my top 5 surprise players, and I know we've touched base on it before, and I think you guys may have some other players that have surprised you. I have number 5 as Matthew Duffy. Now, for some reason, he couldn't play first grade with Paul McGregor, and then the board was making decisions. He's actually up there with fullbacks for averages, considering what his price was at the beginning of the season. I think he's a massive steal. I have number 4 at Apisal Coruscant. I think I'm a bit biased. He's in my draft fantasy team. I drafted him very late. I'm happy with his returns, although I'm a bit worried with his elbow injury this week. Angus Crichton, once again, I didn't think anyone expected him to be a 70-point back rower. Ryan Madison, he's, I think, almost at the top of the list in averages. I don't think anyone expected that. And then the no-brainer, the Harvey Grant. Oh,
Harvey?
is it Harvey Grant or Harry Grant? Oh, I'm terrible with names.
It's the dude leading the Daily M.
Sleiman's been watching too much Suits.
Harry Grant.
No, I've been
watching too much Suits.
Whenever I hear that name, I think of the Dark Knight. Because the Two-Face character's name is I don't know. Guys, it's been a rough week this week. Please, and you caught me off guard talking.
I feel you.
You caught me off guard talking about suppressed memories of failing. CA. You've rattled me. I'm rattled.
Well, I'm with you, Sleiman. I think Harvey is right up there.
Yeah, same.
He's right up there. Tom in our fantasy picked him up, and I was quite jealous about it. He's going to go to Melbourne next year. Interested to see what happens.
Well,
to Smith.
not necessarily. We just heard Fat say that he might not go. He's got that. He potentially could go. He's got a clause in his favour, hopefully, that he can choose where he goes.
Interesting. But yeah, look, there's a lot of players there. A few others that have surprised me. And I know you're not going to like this, but Josh Mansour surprised me only because he doesn't score many tries, and last year he was horrible. And his average is above 67. Fats, you mentioned Isaiah Yeo is one of the ones that impressed you.
Yeah, Isaiah Yeo, yeah, for sure. And I joked, Isaiah Yeo himself probably didn't expect to have this season he has been having. But there's no way, when you're picking your team at the start of the year, do you pick Isaiah Yeo thinking that he's going to be a keeper for the rest of the season? And he's pretty much emerged into that category. The other really interesting one, a surprise one for me, is Clint Gutherson. Like, I know, guys like Tom Turbo, out injured, but he's the second best fullback in Supercoach behind James Tedesco. And,
right?
We all know he's a good player, but yeah. So I would not, he's averaging almost 78 points a game. So I don't think anybody would have expected that from him. Ryan Madison is the other one. He's found some attacking stats playing at the Eels. He's a bit of a surprise. David Nofaluma as well. I think, he used to be a Supercoach gun in years gone by, but for a while there he sort of fell off the radar, and now I think he's the best centre wing in the game. So,
well,
there's a couple of interesting ones, and of course,
Bradman Best is another. Bradman Best is another. He's done relatively well. Luciano Leilua is another one. I know he hasn't really been massive points, but he's also jumped up and got some decent ones. And Brandon Smith, he's continuously kept that up. So he's another that's surprised me.
I think that what Fats was talking about with Nofaluma was, like, to think 12 months ago, or probably like this round 12 last year, he didn't start last season in first grade. Madge Maguire didn't pick him. He was playing in the New South Wales Cup for a while, and then he had to earn his way back into first grade. And now, like, he's one of the first backs picked in the team, surely.
Yeah. I mean, his footwork is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the way he's turned around his foot has been incredible.
So I raised this question to both of you guys, and we touched on it before, and hopefully Sal gives me crap because I only give him like 2 minutes to think about it. If you had to have a player as a keeper for the next 5 years, so it doesn't necessarily mean they're absolutely killing it now. It might be someone that you think that will be up in the rise. Up and coming. Who would you use? Who would you pick as a 5-year keeper?
Ooh.
That's a tough question. The person, and I'm again biased because he's on my team. You know what I'm going to say, Sleiman, is Radley. I just think his ball playing skills, I would look for him the next 3 years, 5, maybe not.
So we're talking fantasy though. Is he that real? Is he averaging that highly in fantasy?
Okay. So if it's 5 years, you look for an 80-minute hooker, and it's going to be Harvey Grant. I feel he would be the guy to look at for the next 5 years. Ponga is another one.
So I said one player. You choose one.
I've named 3. Okay, yeah. Well, I'm out. I'm waiting for that. I'm giving her time to think.
No, I wasn't going to say Harry Grant, but I think Harry Grant is a good shout. Having said that, if you just look at someone like James Tedesco's form over the last couple of years and how consistent he is, I'd pick him. Like, I know 5 years is a long time, but he's just going to get better, and he's just so consistent, and that's what sets him apart from everybody else. Like, he rarely plays a bad game.
Well, I think you two have missed a player that maybe because he's been injured, he's slipped your minds a bit. But what about David?
You're going to say David Fafita?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Oh, he'll be right up there. Him and Payne Haas, for sure, given their age.
Yeah, absolutely. Payne Haas is the other one I thought about. The thing with David Fafita is, I wonder if, don't want to write him off after like one knee injury, but he's not that far into his career, and you think about the fact that we've had the COVID break. So say it was a normal season without the COVID break. He's pretty much now missed a massive chunk of the season with this knee injury. So that's sort of come out of nowhere. That would be my biggest concern with him.
Best ability is availability. I'll keep on re-saying that until you guys absolutely throw darts at my head.
Where are you going with that?
I don't know. I've actually bought a dart set recently during COVID because I saw it on Catch of the Day. I thought it'd be worthwhile having, but then I realized I had nowhere to hang it after
I remember your Catch of the Day fetish at work. Whenever you say, Sal, come here, come have a look at this deal.
Anyway, off track. But my outsider would be maybe someone like Mitchell Moses. I think
I was going to mention Mitchell, yeah.
He's young and he's only getting better. He might be that half that you like, the top scoring half in fantasy, especially Parramatta, that like this year they're playing a lot of attacking and exciting football. So scoring points.
Cameron Murray is maybe another one too. I'm not sure how old he is, but he may just get better and play 80 minutes. He is anyway. So.
Yeah.
If I had Sleiman, if I had an Excel spreadsheet, I would data sort 21, 22, and rank the highest players, and there's your answer.
Fats, do you want to laugh at Sal's comment about the Excel spreadsheet, or should I just cut him off there?
And I think we cut him off now. Enough's enough.
It's been great, guys. I'll see you later.
Just quickly, I don't like talking. I really don't like talking down players, but who's been the disappointing player from fantasy this year?
All right. That's a loaded question.
Croft?
One I wasn't really prepared for.
I just thought of it now, and Sal says Croft because he drafted him in the league, and he offered me a trade for Ben Hunt for Croft, and
for a draft pick.
A 6th-round draft pick, which is like the 70th or 90th ranked player. Oh, jeez.
Haven't negotiated yet.
I reckon this is probably a bit of a harsh one, but only because I had to sell him and I'm a bit annoyed by it. For me, Ryan Pappenhausen, like I brought him in and I thought he had a really high ceiling, but it took him a while to get going. And annoyingly, as soon as I finally punted him because he was just bleeding cash, he starts to find some form again.
He
But
scored the
I
two
mean,
tries.
it took him a while to. I know
Yeah.
it took him a while to sort of get going.
Yeah, he hasn't he's played well in the Melbourne Storm team, but for fantasy wise, yeah, you're absolutely right. He just hasn't, because I think what went well with him last year was the line breaks, the tackle busts, and everything that came along with that. And even in the big wins that they've had recently, other than the performance where I think Sal did, he scored 2 or 3 tries against the
Two
Warriors. Yeah, so no, that was a good pick. I didn't think of that one. I was going to go along the lines of maybe Anthony Milford.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah,
Anthony Milford has been a Supercoach disappointment and a rugby league disappointment for a long time. That's, he's just so hot and cold, And people hammer Sean Johnson. Sean Johnson's such a polarizing player because of the fact, he's so hot and cold. But Anthony Milford is just as bad, if not worse, and never really lived up to his potential. At least Sean Johnson sometimes plays to his potential, whereas Anthony Milford, poor kid, I sort of feel sorry for him.
Well,
there's a couple others here, Sleiman, that I can see. Is Joseph Manu is quite down. He's
and that's what I don't understand, because he absolutely plays well for the Roosters. When he moved to fullback, he was a gun, but just fantasy wise, he just doesn't score many points. Because I'm speaking, he's a guy that he's in my team, and I haven't cut him yet because I'm like Fats was saying, he's bleeding cash, and I want to regain that cash because that's the accountant in me.
Another one that's popped up here is obviously Brodie Croft. Luke Brooks has been quite disappointing. There's not many that come into mind.
I guess Valentine Holmes only because of the injury.
Yeah, he wasn't a popular option, and obviously he struggled with injury. So, I mean, sometimes it's really hard to tell. Like you said, there are so many good NRL players, but they just don't translate into Supercoach points. So, guys like Joey Manu, guys like Val Holmes, and they're the ones where, they're sort of like the pod players where you have to sort of take a punt on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just lastly, before we talk about the games of the week, is there anyone you're sneakily picking up that or maybe someone that, like, for example, Crichton, I've actually dropped him this week because he's out for 4 weeks. Is there anyone that you think's a sneaky good pickup for this week?
Well, I actually have to buy back Ryan Madison this week. So he's my guy. So I know his thumb injury has been a bit troublesome, but considering he's playing against his old side, I think he'll be primed to have a really big one. So he's my target this week.
How much is he at? Just under $1 million?
He's a lot. I am already kind of sweating bullets thinking that I have to break my team to get him in. But
oh, jeez.
But you've got to do what you've got to do sometimes, right? Like you just can't be without him. Like he's doing so well that he's averaging 83, 84 points a game. Like you have no chance if you don't have somebody like that in your team.
Can you believe it, Fats, that there's someone in this group right now that in a keeper league was going to choose Pangai as a keeper over Madison and had to be convinced by SFAS to keep Matheson. Sal, do you wish to comment?
Can you first explain what SFAS stands for, please?
It's Sleiman Fantasy Advisory Services. For some reason, people ask me... They asked me about fantasy, like, is this a fair trade or whatever? And Sal was going to keep Pangai, and he was ranked like 90th at the start of the season, like based on last year's points. And I was like, I'd rather Matheson over him, and he kept him as a keeper, and Sal's killing it, actually.
Is this your time to shine? If you want to take it, Sleiman.
No. Like, I thought my fantasy advice got outlawed by the commissioner.
No, it's still out there. People still use it.
Supposedly it's cheating. Anyway. So we'll talk about the games really quickly for the round. And to be honest, there's some crackers, and I just realized I haven't updated the headings. So apologies for putting wrong headings. But you know what? This could be the match of the round. It's the Thursday night game, the Eels and the Tigers. We touch base. Matheson and Moses playing against their old clubs. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it could be the match of the round. I think anything can happen in this one. The Eels were really flat last week and the Tigers were really good, but you just don't know what sort of Tigers outfit you're going to get. Are you going to get the old Tigers that we're used to seeing, that, really flashy team that puts on the points, or we're going to see the Tigers it's a bit more gritty, the Tigers outfit that looks like where you can really see Madge's influence in them. So, yeah, I think in my tips for tomorrow for the Telegraph, I think I went the Eels, but to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if the Tigers upset the Eels in this one. Like, I know the Eels get Mitchell Moses back, Madison and Blake Ferguson. But yeah, considering all the talk about Madison leading up to this one, with him apparently, his parting message being that the Tigers are never going to win a premiership, there's no doubt the Tigers players are going to be up for this one.
No, that's a good point. I think with Mitchell Moses, though, I think there's a lot of energy in that man, and he either will overdo it and cause a lot of errors, or he will shine. I don't know where I got the word spike from, but I think Parramatta for me, but we'll just have to wait and see.
I'm still sus about the West Tigers defense. I don't think Brisbane tested them at all. I just think the back rowers and the wingers of the Parramatta Eels, granted, hopefully Sivo and Nathan Brown do play because I think they're carrying injuries. I still think that their fringes is a bit suspect of the Tigers, but we'll wait and see. I didn't change the heading for this one as well, and it's almost correct.
It leaves town.
I love that heading. I love the matchup where whoever loses is probably going to not make the top 8, and I think this is definite. The Sea Eagles are favourites at $1.65, but I still feel like that Townsville factor, like they actually have a lot. They can bring in a lot more fans in there. And if you recall a couple of weeks ago with the Knights where they came up there and they got absolutely blitzed, do we guys think that the Cowboys are a chance?
Just quickly, whenever a coach gets sacked, usually the team steps up the week after.
Except for Canterbury last week.
Yeah, and also Warriors. But Warriors won, didn't they? Yeah. So usually there's a bit of a vibe. Let's do this. Let's get up. Are they going to get up for their new coach? I don't know. But the humidity up there is pretty tough. So Manly without Tommy is going to be hard.
Fats, are you happy with how man? Sorry, go on. Yep.
No, I tend to agree with that. For whatever reason, when an NRL team have their backs against the wall or they've been in the media or something, they seem to sort of lift for that game. So I reckon this is another one that's really hard to split, go either way, because again, the Sea Eagles. You know what? I'm going to Cowboys.
Oh, she's changing her mind.
No, they're without Valheim. Yeah, I'll go with the Cowboys. I talked myself into that one.
But other than Val Holmes, they're almost at full. I know they've got no Michael Morgan, no Drinkwater, but they're almost at full strength, especially with the forward pack. And I'm still not sold with Manly. I think the way that the Eels let them, like, they were pretty soft tries to Cherry Evans and Levi, and I don't think the Cowboys' defense isn't that great either. So 2 weeks ago, I made a prediction that they would beat the Roosters. And the first 30 minutes of that game, I know everyone was sweating bullets like, oh, my God, the Cowboys have turned up. And when Kyle Felt missed that kick, it just turned the game around. So I will never back the Cowboys again. So I'll stick with the Sea Eagles. How about that? Done. Next game, I'm battle of the fullbacks. Well, I guess so, because Milford's been moved to fullback. We were just touching base on Pappenhausen before. I've never seen a team at $8 to win. Like,
yeah.
Is this a tick and flick, Melbourne Storm? Enough said.
Yeah, I think so. I'm interested to see how Dearden goes, but Milford at fullback, I don't think he have the steam.
Yeah, I mean, there was when Milford sort of first came through, there was chat about, I think he came through as a fullback, actually, if I remember.
At the Raiders,
correctly.
yeah, that's correct, yeah.
But the game, but the game's changed. And back then, he was, considered a prodigious talent, and it was such a big deal that the Raiders lost him and the rest of it. But the game's changed so much. He doesn't even, physically, he doesn't even have the frame to sort of compete with some of the best fullbacks, So yeah, the Storm. Oh my God! If the Storm lose this one, then Craig Bellamy will quit. That's how.
I
Yeah,
love
That,
when
like,
I
that's how
love
confident
when
I am.
Craig I love when Craig Bellamy stands up and walks around the room, and you see that Adam O'Brien does it too, and he gets
Yeah.
it from him. And I just like he snaps and gets up and walks around and sits down. I don't know if it's for his Apple Watch, but
Hey,
he,
Yeah.
I've got a punching bag here, and sometimes when I'm in meetings and people just don't get the grasp of finances, I mute the microphone and I give it a couple of 1-2 combinations, and then I come back to the meeting calls. That's what.
really wow. There you
Just
go.
to let
That's not a
steam.
bad idea.
I'm telling you, Fats, if
Wow.
if you get a really poor answer, just walk away, punch the punching bag a little bit, and then go back into the conference. And
Why do you think she left accounting, mate?
I think she's the smart one, most definitely. Next up, okay, Stormer definitely. All right, this is the one that's
$8. It's $10 here.
wow, are the Warriors $10. Oh, geez, now I've never seen this. I don't think the Warriors are that bad. I'd give the Warriors more of a chance to beat the Roosters than Broncos beating the Storm.
Roosters lost last week, and we know that when they lose, they step it up. They're not going to lose for Mr. Robinson.
But I don't see Robinson as what's the word, an aggressive,
Intimidating.
not intimidating, like just a snapping type of coach, like laying into
I
the
just
play.
think for the respect, the way he puts his words together, it's very French. They will win for him.
That's...
Yeah. I mean, the Roosters lost 2 in a row. Was it 2 or 3 in a row to start the season?
2 in a row. Yeah, that's right.
Maybe then 2 in a row. And I haven't lost 2 in a row since then. And I can't see it happening at a level. They would have been embarrassed. Like, I know the Roosters themselves have a few injuries, but at a level that club would have been embarrassed that they got beat by the Raiders, who they lost to in the grand final, particularly because the Raiders themselves had a stack of injuries as well. So, the Roosters, in this one for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's other key games. Thank God the headings are back to normal. This is the derby, like the Sharks and the Dragons. They played only, I think, 6 weeks ago in round 4 or round 5, where the Dragons had just lost to the Bulldogs. They looked like no chance of beating the Sharks, and they beat the Sharks. And I remember I was private messaging Woodsy, telling him to keep his head up high. And there was a time. It was a time where I think the Sharks had lost their first 4 games, or 1 of 4, and they've done the bounce back. Do we think this game will be a little bit close? Because that was a bit of a blowout by the Dragons last time. It's actually a pretty good match. I think they're both evenly balanced.
I'll wait for that to jump in.
Somebody save me.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. I mean, those two. Yeah, I think it's going to be close. Like I said, when Duffy's come in with his passing game, I just feel that he's just putting more on. I think they would have been very disappointed against how they played against Canterbury, and so they may just step it up to some degree. But I'm going for Sharks.
So you just talked up the Dragons.
I was changing my mind through, and I was talking.
Save us, Fats. Save us. Give us something.
Yeah, no, I think I tipped the Sharks in this one as well. I agree, though, they are pretty evenly matched. But, look, it's going to be a tight one. I don't know if it's going to be one of those ones where defense wins. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this one, especially because the Sharks have been scoring a lot of points. I think behind the Roosters, the Sharks are scoring the most points in the competition. Sean Johnson, is leading the comp for try assists. So the Dragons will be buoyed, after beating the Bulldogs the way they did last week. But I still think the Sharks might edge them out in this one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close one. I can't be, like, the Sharks had a very good win last week. And the Dragons look like when the Dragons scored the first 2 tries against the Bulldogs, I thought it was going to be a very high scoreline, and they only just won on the buzzer from the Montoya era. But yeah, I can't pick them. I'm going to do the classic comment from Sal a couple of weeks ago and say I'm going to go with the draw. So something, spice it up a little bit.
A little bit different.
This is your team, Fats. The Raiders against the Bunnies. This is a pretty good matchup. 6-8. I think the Bunnies are still missing Latrell Mitchell through suspension, and they have James Roberts that's out injured.
Yeah, Ethan Lowe is out injured as well in this one.
Bailey Sironen goes okay for the
interesting
Rabbitohs.
Yeah, he does. The interesting storyline here is Jack Johns, the son of Matthew Johns and the nephew of Andrew Johns, is making his debut for the Bunnies in this game because Ethan Lowe's out for the season, I think, with a neck injury. So he's a back rower, so he's been named on the bench. Yeah, but I think Canberra's win last week against the Roosters is the kind of win that can change the entire trajectory of your season. And I really think the Raiders have been quite patchy this season. They've sort of been in and out of form and have been nowhere near their best. But I reckon they would have got so much confidence from beating the Roosters the way they did, especially because everybody wrote them off. I don't want to jinx them, but my feeling is that, the Raiders definitely specials in this one.
Sal, you're back. Who do you think?
Canberra. I'm going to go for Canberra.
You don't know the matchup.
Good choice.
No, I do. I'm sorry. I had a bit of a moment earlier. I'm going to go for Canberra. Souths just, I don't know. I like Jack Whiten. I just feel Canberra has got the win.
So Sal, you've heard me say this a few times. I feel that the South forward is not as dominant as they have been in the past, and they don't have that go forward, and then it doesn't allow the players like Damien Cook, Walker, and Reynolds, and I guess Latrell when he's playing to feed off the back of them. And I think that small spurt against the Knights where they did their comeback was off the back of Thomas Burgess getting the go forward. Junior Tava, I'm going to butcher his name, but
Tavita Totola.
That's the person. He's go forward. And even Nichols, he's go forward. Like they were all on at the same time, and they had that really good go forward. And they gave Cook those quick play the balls that allowed him to go for a dummy half and like basically have the defense in two minds. And even Cody Walker was taking advantage of it as well. So South have lacked that all season. That go forward, I don't know. Like the front rows are there. I just don't know why they're not winning the forward battle. So I think if they can win the forward battle, I think they're a really good chance against the Raiders. But the Raiders pack is, you got Papali, you've got.
How good's Papali going?
He's a beast. He's been going good for a while though. This isn't anything new. The form he's been playing with is the same form that helped the Raiders, get as far as they did last season. So he's been in good form for at least, over 12 months now.
He's just consistent. He just gets the ball rolling. I don't mind Denamius Louis. He's a good solid front rower. That just
the one-on-one steals he did last week, incredible. Changed the game.
And even Havili at hooker, I remember watching him at the Dragons in the lower grades, and not when I say lower grades, New South Wales Cup, but he's a solid hooker. He's really good at, like, they've been playing him at the back row because of Hodgson, but he goes well at hooker. So I don't think Canberra missed too much. Hodgson is an all-class player, but I don't think that they've got two good backups. And Sal, you gave a rap for is it Tom Starling?
Yeah. He was, when he first came on, he looked a little nervous, I think, and I was like, okay, how is this guy going to go? And then all of a sudden, in the second half, he's just great, and it's good to see a young hooker like that. And all that comes to my mind is, why isn't Canterbury going after someone like that? But anyway, good on him. I think he played really well.
All right. Now,
will he play 80 minutes this week, given that Hodson's out? There was another player. Who was the other player that came on and really butched a couple of plays in the first half? Havali, was it?
Havili.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I gave him a rap, so hopefully he makes amends. We'll go. Oh, okay, so, this I don't know what to say anymore. Like, the fans were crying for players to be played in position. So, like, Meany at fullback because he's a true fullback. DWZ on the wing and he's playing there. Players like.
Sleiman's over. Well, I'm going to ask fastest question: overs or unders? The amount of random bombs that Lachlan Lewis will skyrocket this weekend.
Isn't that part of the
Six below or over?
But Sal,
definitely over.
but Sal, I'm gonna back Lachlan Lewis. I think he's coached to do that. Because if if the coach is saying, why are you putting up a bomb every play, the coach would tell him to stop doing it, and he'd bench him.
Okay, so my comment to that is the coach will help him get better, and his defense is really good. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. I'm not the coach. I'm not there. I can't comment more than that. I see where your angle is at. I just feel he can do a bit better. He butchered a couple of big plays for us. And one of the last plays, he kicked it out on the end goal where it was a preset, 7 sets. But
So I'm gonna be honest with you, Sal.
I don't know what it was.
I'm gonna be honest. I barely. Sorry, the game was in the background, but I just wasn't mentally there.
Right. Well, I was, and there was a couple of plays at the end that he screwed up big time, and then all of a sudden, superstar Montoya the ball.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we're winning like by 10 points, and every minute I was thinking something's gonna go wrong. So, and it's just the way that they won the game. It's like, I could expect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was watching it on delay, and the 3 text messages that popped up that were bad, I went, oh no. And I was watching, it was like 2 minutes left. I'm like, what's going to happen? Then it did. It reminded me of remember when Josh Reynolds threw the ball out on the full, was it, on the Belmore? Do you remember that? Or was it ANZ? And it caused a penalty?
I vaguely remember that, yeah.
Okay. That was, I think, 4 years ago. Anyway, it reminded me of that moment. Knights, 13 plus.
Gamble
responsibly, Sal. Fats?
Yeah, sorry guys. I reckon the Knights in this one. Look, I'll give Canterbury this, and it's been said plenty of times, and it is true. At least you guys have a dig, you know. And there's not that much you can do, like whether you're a fan or a coach. There's not much you can do with the roster that you have. And at least with the roster that you do have, to Dean Pay's credit, he's turned it into a playing group that, you know, puts in every single week. It's just at the end of the day, you just don't have, you know, the game breakers and the same sort of, you know, class across the board that some of the other players do, that some of the other teams do.
Yeah, and that's
definitely.
You've hit the nail on the coffin. Like it's that explosive player that, you know, that's a game changer. We just don't have it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. You just, you know, looking at the sides, you know, Ponga's coming back into some form. Kurt Mann's playing really well in the halves. You know, they've got guys like Bradman Best, who's just like an absolute beast at, you know, in the centres. Dave Clemmer, you're talking about the forward, Dave Clemmer, Jacob Saifidi, Andrew McCulloch, who some people questioned his signature like really early on as to why would they do that, but he's doing really well for them and turned out to be a really good buy. So, yeah, unfortunately for the Bulldogs, I think it might be another loss there.
Well, at least we're preparing ourselves for it. And maybe if there is a miracle and there is an upset, you know, we'll have a happier podcast next week.
You can only hope.
We'll touch on. Geez, this is a match that, you know, I probably will watch. I'm not going to lie. I'll watch every match, but you know that you get those matches that it's painful to watch. This is getting close. The Titans and the Panthers. I think it's going to be a lot of people were saying 13 plus and all that type of stuff, but Panthers are missing some key players in Edwards and Coruscant. I can smell like Titans, not a win. I'm not that bold because I after the Cowboys, I'm never going to be bold again. I'm going to be a pessimistic person, but I can see the Titans at least having a go.
Yeah, I think they will. I just think Penrith's got to make up that slight disappointment last week. I think they were, our first half was a bit strange. I think Penrith, but like you said, I don't think by big.
Yeah, Api Coruscant, who I think is out for a couple of weeks now. Initially, they said it was just sort of, you know, he was being given time to rest the elbow injury, but that's a massive loss for them if he's out for a couple of weeks because he's been at the centre of everything they've done, really. I mean, I know Nathan Cleary's playing really well. Luai's playing really well, but it was Api Coruscant who, you know, really is the key as to why their attack has been completely transformed this year. So, look, I agree. The Titans this year under Justin Holbrook are a bit like the Bulldogs. They don't necessarily have the manpower, but, at least they're putting in the effort. But, I still think even without Coruscant and Edwards, the Panthers are just going to be way, way too good.
And they also got no Dean Faro. Brian Tuo is still out. But, yeah, the back line's still, like, other than Naden bombing, I don't know why he didn't pass the ball inside. But Naden's been playing fantastic since coming back into first grade.
Well, that's the thing about the Panthers. Like, they have guys go down, but they've just got such a, richness of young talent coming through. Nathan Cleary always unavailable, and Matt Burton comes in, and, somebody's unavailable in the backs, and, a guy like Charlie Staines comes in, and, they're incredibly lucky in that. They've just got a huge nursery there that's really going to help them this year, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, I think that's the last game of the week. Yes, it is. Fat?
Was it the last game? I was expecting another game to pop up for some reason.
I was about to try to pronounce. I was about to pronounce.
Come on,
name,
just have a go. Just have a go. Just have a crack.
I know it's not Fatima. Fatima? No, I don't know.
Oh God, that's
Fatima is what it is.
Fatima.
Right?
Oh gosh.
Yes, it's
Sleiman is really bad with names, and that's why I had to change
am.
my name. Well, not change it, but from Saleh to Sal, because when I first started with Sleiman, and he was my my mentor. No idea. Cut it short.
Why can't everyone be called like Smith and Andrew and John? I don't know.
What would be the fun in that?
Or Harvey.
Or Harvey, yeah. Or Harvey Grant.
What? I keep on calling John Bateman James Bateman because of the actor, because I've been watching a lot of stuff of his on Netflix as well. So
Sleiman, who was that Manly hooker that you had? Parcells.
Is it Matt Parcell?
No, yeah. You used to call him Parcell and never used to say Parcells, or the other way around. But I remember you used to always get that one wrong. But anyway, Fats, I hope you enjoyed Sleiman and Sal. I'm so glad that you came on.
I did. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on.
Not a problem. And next week, I won't be part of it. I'm taking out my tonsils, so I'll be out for the count, which is going to be fun. But I think I might pop in and just sit there and smile.
You can always have cue cards, Sal, if you want. So,
it's 2020, man. Anything can happen.
Well,
but
we might bring back Paul Pisani. He's itching to come back.
That would be good. But we thank you for the insights of being a journalist, and that was a lot of fun. And for our viewers, please subscribe, because I know Fatima is going to be retweeting this hopefully for us to get some more viewers.
No, the deal was if you got my name right, and
yes.
if I recall correctly, you only got a pass mark there. So
I'll get a like then.
No, come on, guys. You'll get a retweet.
There we go. Tick. Well, on that note, I hope everyone enjoyed the podcast, and we'll look forward to talking with you guys next week. Sleiman and Fats, thanks for a good time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.